Compounds actually fall into several different categories, and these categories or types are named according to the old Sanskrit term for each type. The three that we're going to focus on today are Dvandva, which means two and two, Tatpurusha, which means his man or the man of him, and Bahuvrihi, which means having much rice. Let's start with Dvandva. A Dvandva is a type of compound consisting of two parts where each part equally describes the item or idea. These are rare in English, but a couple examples are bitter-sweet, which describes something that's bitter and sweet, and tractor-trailer, which is something that's both a tractor and a trailer. Dvandva is actually an example of a Dvandva. It's two ideas put together, two and two, into one word with the idea of and between them. Let's look at a tree structure for these. For bittersweet, we have bitter, an implied and sweet. Both pieces in a Dvandva have the same part of speech, two adjectives here and two nouns in tractor-trailer. Further, when you combine them, you keep the same part of speech. Bittersweet is an adjective and tractor-trailer is a noun. Next, let's look at Tatpurusha. This one's a bit more complicated. This refers to a compound where the second of the two morphemes will determine the whole compound's part of speech. In other words, it's the basis of the compound. The first morpheme is logically or grammatically dependent on the second, and it gives more information about it. Let's look at a few examples to see what that means. For each of these, note that the spelling, whether we use a space, no space, or a hyphen, will depend on both the word and the writer. Still, all of these are considered compounds by our definition. First, we'll look at world leader. Our second morpheme, leader, gives us the compound's part of speech. A world leader is a noun, just like a leader. In fact, a world leader is a leader. We can see here that the second morpheme forms the basis for this compound. A world leader is not a world, but they are a leader. We can then take that first morpheme and use it to give more information or specificity about the second morpheme. The way that we do this is by adding some prepositional phrase like of or for. So a world leader is a leader of the world. If we do this and we get the meaning of the compound, then that tells us we have a Tatpurusha. A Tatpurusha is again an example of a Tatpurusha. We have of him and we have man. So his man is a man, and we can use the prepositional phrase of him to say the man of him to get the same meaning. The same logic applies to cabbage patch. A cabbage patch is a patch, and so a noun, and we can use our first morpheme after a prepositional phrase, a patch of cabbages. Finally, bookshelf is a shelf, and so a noun, and we can use for. It's a shelf for books. All of these are the same category, Tatpurusha. Let's look at a tree of these. The tree is the simplest to explain. We start with our second element, and that gives us the part of speech of the whole compound. We then add our first morpheme onto that as a logically dependent entity. So a blackbird is first and foremost a bird, but it's a bird of the color black. Finally, we'll look at bahuvrihis. A bahuvrihi is an interesting type of compound because its meaning is not given by the parts of the compound themselves. A bahuvrihi refers to someone or something that possesses, that has, the qualities described in the compound. Bahuvrihis can be adjectives or nouns. This gets back to our examples of pachyderm and redhead. A pachyderm is not a skin, a derm. This means that a pachyderm is not a Totpurusha. Likewise, a redhead is not a head. However, we have some external agent, someone or something that has this quality. That's a bahuvrihi. In Sanskrit, bahu means much and vrihi means rice. Having isn't actually here in this word. But instead of meaning much rice, it refers to something that has much rice. Bahuvrihi is itself an example of a bahuvrihi. Let's look at our table, at our tree. We'll use redhead as an example. We start with a Totpurusha. Head is a noun and gives a part of speech to this small subtree, redhead. But in English, we have to add an extra step, this unpronounced empty morpheme, having, that turns our noun into an adjective. So redhead, in its basic form, means having a red head and is an adjective. We can then use another empty morpheme, like we have before, to turn the adjective into a noun. This lets us make plurals of nouns like redheads. As we can see, this new approach to morphology, using tree structures and approaching things more formally, results in more nuance. We can examine things in more detail than we can just simply by picking out the morphemes and giving their meanings. Thank you.